a 100% recession-proof job doesn't really exist. Recessions affect every industry in some way. But that being said, certain industries are essential regardless of the state of the economy, and therefore have higher job security during periods of economic decline. Hey, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Preston, and I'm a professional recruiter. In my last video, I covered the top 15 low-stress jobs. I thought this would be an especially valuable topic to discuss given the current state of the US economy. There's enough to worry about already without the added stress of work-related tasks, conflicts, and other issues. As I emphasized in that video, there likely isn't a truly stress-free work environment. However, it will also depend on the individual's personal tastes. Some things are more stressful than others depending on the person. But if you're interested in learning more, I recommend you pause right now and go back and watch that video. When I finished my previous video on low-stress jobs, I felt like there was more to be said about getting and keeping a job during periods of economic stability. Because unfortunately, low-stress jobs aren't always the safest when it comes to job security. That's why in today's video, we'll be covering 15 jobs that offer increased stability and security even in unstable times such as a recession. But before we get started, as always, please consider like, subscribe, click that bell. Really means a lot. It's completely free. If you've been keeping up with my videos, you're likely well aware of the current state of the US economy. If you're new or haven't seen my previous videos on the job economy, the future of remote work, or the mass layoffs occurring in the tech sector, I recommend going back to watch those now. But here's a quick summary to get you caught up for this video. It is a fairly unprecedented and unpredictable time for the US economy thanks to the pandemic in 2020. Even as we make our way out of it back to normalcy, the economy will likely take years to fully recover. The abnormality of the situation makes it harder for economists to predict the future. So things are a bit up in the air right now. For instance, the tech industry faltering. It experienced unprecedented growth during the pandemic thanks to increased technology use while people were stuck at home. Now, technology organizations face an uphill struggle as users return to other industries that suffered during the pandemic. As a result, sectors such as entertainment and hospitality, food, and drinks have flourished, while major tech companies like Google, Twitter, Coinbase, and Redfin, just to name a few, have been forced to lay off a significant amount of employees and even retract or rescind offers that have already been accepted by prospective employees. The tech industry is one of the most important ones when it comes to the health of the economy. Why? They typically require a significant amount of funding from investors, so they represent the high-risk, high-reward opportunities for financiers. As a result, the tech industry is one of the first to suffer in an economic downturn. If inflation has increased, interest rates are high, or a recession looms on the horizon, investors drastically cut back their funding. So economists look to the state of the technology industry for an indication of the health of the economy. But before we get into recession-proof jobs, let's quickly define what a recession is and what makes a job recession-proof. So what is a recession? There isn't one single element that defines a recession. It can include one or more of these common indicators: an increase in the number of struggling companies who declare bankruptcy, higher than average unemployment, an overall reduction in consumer and business spending, and most commonly, a significant and extended stock market drop. The combined result of these elements is a decrease in gross domestic product, or GDP. Indeed defines a GDP as a number that measures the value of goods and services that industries produce within a specific time frame. These common indicators of recession can be spurred by a number of causes, including inflation, deflation, significant changes in technology, short-term and speculative bubbles, and most notably, any sort of major event that affects the economy in some way. We saw this 2 years ago at the beginning of the pandemic and are now seeing these effects again as we adjust to post-pandemic life. A recession can have a variety of effects on different industries and roles depending on the context. For instance, as I mentioned before, we saw the technology industry boom during the pandemic only for it to crash more recently. While certainly it is a lucrative and exciting field, it isn't always most recession-proof. But there are some technically inclined jobs that will withstand a pandemic, along with many other roles that are considered essential. But before we dive into the list though, let's redefine what makes a job recession-proof. So what makes a job recession-proof? I mentioned in my previous video that there isn't a truly stress-free job. However, that also depends greatly on the employee and their strengths and capacity for stress. Similarly, a 100% recession-proof job doesn't really exist. Recessions affect every industry in some way, and the cause of the recession will have an impact on the types of jobs that are affected. But that being said, it's a little easier to define and quantify recession-proof because it's less reliant on an individual's personal experience. Certain industries are essential regardless of the state of the economy, and therefore have higher job security during periods of economic decline. You can identify the skills and qualifications that are always in demand and focus on applying to relevant jobs. But without further ado, let's get into the roles that come up the most often in my research for this video. List of recession-proof jobs. The following jobs were commonly listed as the most recession-proof from a variety of sources. Some are less specialized and won't require special trainings or degree, while others may only be relevant to those who have received one. Marketers and advertisers. While companies are generally spending less on marketing and advertising during a recession, their efforts don't stop altogether. In fact, it's important to continue to give your brand publicity, even in periods of economic decline or risk losing business. The best marketers and advertisers remain employed during a recession because they have produced documented results. Brands will want to keep them on in order for their outreach to remain effective. However, inexperienced or unproven marketers may struggle to find work, so it comes in at the bottom of our list. Senior care. There is always a need for senior care, even during a recession. Assisted living facilities and nursing homes require a variety of staff members to keep operations running smoothly and ensuring their patients are receiving the cares that they need. There is also a need for hospice and palliative care workers for elderly or sick patients who are otherwise unable to leave their home. Public transportation. So another industry that typically doesn't suffer during a pandemic is public transportation. Bus, cab, and train operators are still needed to ensure the various transit systems are operating smoothly and on time. Additionally, while it isn't technically public, ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft are also poised to do well during a recession. So that's something to consider. Depending on the source and severity of the recession, there may be less travel overall, but people still have to get to and from work and home, so public transportations will always be needed. Funeral services. Another industry that stays afloat during recessions are funeral services. While people may be generally willing to spend less on these services, there will always be a need for caskets and burials and cremation services for family members who pass away. Auto mechanics. Similarly, while travel may decline overall during a recession, there will still be plenty of vehicles on the road, and people will still need inspections and tune-ups, oil changes, and repairs. Mechanics business may decline slightly, but it will never disappear entirely. Those with knowledge of automobile maintenance and repair will find these roles valuable and secure during times of economic hardship. Judiciary workers. The judiciary system will always require workers like jurors and bailiffs, judges, and sheriffs to ensure that court proceedings continue smoothly through economic decline. The pandemic drastically affected the way some of these things are done, but the need for workers will always be there for remote and in-person trials in both civil and criminal courts. Corrections officers. So along these same lines, corrections officers and various employees at incarceration facilities are necessary to ensure the continued operation and the safety and security of the inmates, making them a particularly safe role to take during a pandemic. Education. The education system continues during recessions at all levels, from early childhood all the way up to higher ed. This industry encompasses everything from preschool to kindergarten to after school and summer programs. There is always a need for valuable educators as well as assistants, paraprofessionals, janitors, receptionists, and more. These roles are especially valuable and important during times of economic strain. Public safety. Recessions certainly don't negate the need for a variety of public safety officials, from police officers to ambulance drivers to even fire and rescue specialists. These are some of the most important roles during a recession, as crime and public safety incidents do not stop during a recession. Utility workers. Another one of the most important recession-proof industries is public utilities. Citizens will still need water, electricity, plumbing, and waste management even during periods of significant economic decline. These roles require some training but no formal education or degree and typically pay very well. Those with the drive and interest should consider a role in public utility. Financial services. Does it come as any surprise that accountants, auditors, actuaries, and debt management professionals are still in demand during a recession? Both businesses and individuals may need financial assistance and help navigating a precarious economy, and financial service employees are well positioned to help people make smart decisions that overall help them stay afloat during really tough times. IT support. As technology becomes more advanced, the need for support technicians only increases. Both organizations and individuals rely on multiple massive infrastructures to keep operations running smoothly, and those systems require constant monitoring and quick maintenance to ensure there are no gaps in service or other massive errors. This need certainly doesn't go away during a recession. Delivery and transportation. Similar to public transportation, there's always a need for transit and delivery services under a variety of industries. Truck drivers ensure products get to store shelves quickly and safely, and private delivery apps like Instacart and Uber Eats and DoorDash still receive a lot of business during a recession. Grocery store workers. While certain specialty stores may see a decline during a recession, grocery stores and other retail outlets that sell essential goods are always in need of employees. These roles are valuable for younger or inexperienced workers, but still offer decent pay and hours. Medical and healthcare. Last but certainly not least are perhaps the most important workers of all: pharmacists, doctors, nurses, physicians, technicians, and even medical assistants and administrators continue to offer their services to patients even in the most difficult of circumstances. There is a constant need for healthcare, as we saw during the pandemic, and that is certainly not going to stop anytime soon. Medical and healthcare workers are well compensated for their work for good reason. They are also usually highly educated with one or multiple degrees and specialty training. So this just about wraps up this video on recession-proof jobs. I covered a lot, but there are countless other industries and jobs out there. Is there one that you could think of that I forgot to mention? Would love to hear from you. Please make sure to comment down below. If you like this video, want to see more like it, feel free to like, subscribe, click that bell, really means a lot. Feel free to also follow me at Preston_Park, as I try my best to also post daily. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.